I'm happy to do this short video as part of the conference that we are organizing. I thank Walter for reaching out to me and asking me to be part of this. My name is Richard Sewakilianga, the Executive Director for the Uganda National NGO Forum in Uganda. I've been asked to say something about civil society and the kind of role that civil society plays in the country. What I'm going to do is to do two things. One is to talk about the role of civil society, but also talk about the factors that of civil society, how it contributes or makes a meaningful role, a meaningful contribution to development in the country. I think for me, when we think about does civil society play a useful role, first is to say yes. In countries like mine, if there was no civil society, actually there would be no development. Why? Because the kinds of things that the government can do are very limited because they don't have enough resources. So civil society is one of those parts of society that actually contribute to bringing resources that are needed both in local communities, at the national level, and in different spaces. If you think about education in this country or health, a country like Uganda has got huge amounts of investments that have been made by NGOs and other non-state actors, especially religious and faith-based organizations, for example, in the area of education. Most of the good schools have their roots in the churches in Uganda. If you go to education, if you go to health, so that tells you something about how civil society is quite an important player in society. The other important thing I think is that civil society also is one of those sectors, parts of society that bring care to the population. Now, when I say care, it's something that if you think about areas that require care, places where there is the people are destitute, are marginalized, or sick people, you'll find that are the carers of last resort. Now that tells you something about why civil society is very important in a country like ours. The thing which I think is important is that civil society has played a significant role in building knowledge of citizens. If you think about some of the things that have changed in many countries, the fight against AIDS, the fact that many organizations were very instrumental in just raising awareness, as well as telling people what they can do about prevention. If you think about malaria in this country, the people who are able to reach out to communities are usually civil society. And even if you think about areas like gender, today in any community, nobody can form a group of only men. Why? Because the whole question of gender has been talked about, and civil society has been very instrumental in actually creating gender sensitization that is improving gender relations in some significant ways. So for me, civil society does play a role. If you think about areas like anti-corruption, I think the fact that we put a torch on the things that the government does, it's something that we know has been very instrumental. In Uganda, we have one of the biggest anti-corruption movements that we've been running for the last 18 months called the anti-corruption, the Black Monday, which is an anti-corruption movement across civil society. It's in fact a social movement, not just a project of any civil society organization. But all those tell you that civil society has actually done a lot. Now, of course, it contributes, and there are many pros and cons that civil society has to go through. One of the critical ones is that if you think about it, the positive things that we see today coming out of the fact that civil society is influencing development and it's becoming a development actor in its own right is the fact that we are in very many ways connected both locally and globally and nationally. So you find that we do not have, we have now recognized that there is a lot we can do together. So you find a lot of global coalitions that work together, that try to ensure that civil society works together on questions that are important to all of them. Post-2015 comes to mind. that is knowledge that is going from the global to the local, from the local to the global. So that tells you something around civil society. If you think about the fact that there are lots of resources that are mobilized by civil society. In Uganda, we don't know the figures today, but 10 years ago when we did a study, we found that up to nearly 3% of GDP was coming in from civil society. So that tells you that civil society has lots of positive things that they do. And of course, there are still many challenges. We see that across Africa and many countries, the laws are constraining civil society. There are lots of places where some of the laws do not create the kind of enabling environment that civil society would need to flourish. The other fact is that also, I think the fact that there are still many people who form organizations that you may consider to be quack organizations is something that we have to really think about and what it means. And also there is something which is inherent, which is that sometimes there are many people who come to civil society not because of the causes that are there, but because they want to be part of it as a career. Now, that careerism is also something that sort of limits how much civil society can create social transformation. So I can say many things, but I think because I'm supposed to be speaking for a short time, I want to say that for me these are some of the ideas that come to mind, and I would have loved to be part of the debate there. But for now, thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope this adds to the debate that you will be having around what civil society can do around Africa and in the world. Thank you for listening.